Hello folks, welcome back in. Today we're going to take another look at the Fluval shaker. I set this tank up, it's been a while, it was around this time. Honestly don't remember. So it'll be a nice kind of look back over the past couple of years. So when I set this tank up, and as you can see this tank is normally glorious. Maybe I've got some B-roll from back in December I can show you from the last time I trimmed it out. This tank has looked really amazing over, and in fact in person it still looks really nice, but the problem is the growth at the top has just become so much that it's just completely dark. It's really dark both to photograph and to look at. If you're a little far away, it just looks really dark in here, and it's got plenty of light. It's got the same light it had on it before, but there's just been so much growth and it's really hard to deal with it. Something that made this tank really unique, but that I really have to deal with today, is that I suspended a piece of driftwood all the way across here. And when I did that, I attached Anubias to it, all around it. Different kinds, but probably a lot of Copophilia, because I'm seeing some really huge leaves, some of which have taken over. So I've got this one in particular, I struggle to remember what it is. I think it's guppy grass or some sort of wort. It's something that came for free with some shrimp or something, and I ended up planting in a couple of places, and now I'm just plagued with it. This little segmented plant, it's a stem plant, but any part of it can fall off and just start again. So it's kind of in the duckweed category of pest plants, so that can just overgrow a tank. Really great for breeding operations, where you can just take it and throw it into your garden or something if you want to mulch with it. But really not useful in more decorative tanks where you have to keep everything orderly. The other thing is it's out competing other plants. I got some red plants in here that I like a lot better. Some Lewigia, I think they are. And these things out compete them and just make everything dark. So I've got two things to do. One, get as much of that stem plant out as I can. And two, I'm going to lift this piece of driftwood out that contains the Anubias. It's only connected by roots at this point. And hopefully I've got some nice close-ups to show you. But it does have root structures that have reached into the ground. I'm not sure how much, probably a lot. So I might be making a mess short term. The plan is just not to turn off the pumps or anything. I'm just going to let it run and just pull it out of there. I'm going to put it in this giant tote. I've got this really big tote here. So the structure for this like Anubias decoration here in the middle is a long piece of driftwood with fishing line tied on either end, and that goes to a stainless steel L-shaped piece of metal that I've got just kind of propped on the same thing that the lights are standing on. So I should be able to grab that piece of metal and just pull it straight out. I might have to remove, well, I may have to remove at least one of the lights when I do it, but hopefully you'll be able to see it. I'll have cameras on both angles and we can take a real close look at how much this has grown. But once I've got that out, the plan is to place it in here, and then I'm going to trim up some of that Anubias and see what I can save, and just trim it back down to a reasonable size and then put it back. The fish that are in here are betta patoidi, and they are, I did a whole really nice video of them last year, of them swimming around and acting pretty, and you probably saw them in the intro just a minute ago. They are doing really super well. They love it in here. The trouble is they procreate quite rapidly. Like I don't know how their species ever became endangered. It was probably a human's fault. I'm sure it was a human's fault somewhere, but these things breed really successfully. In fact, if you're anywhere in East Tennessee and you'd be interested in breeding one of these, just come find me. You can find me on Facebook or whatever, and ask me about it, and we'll see if we can make some arrangements. Okay? I think I've gone from 6 to like 11, and I've given away about 5 of them so far. So they're breeding really well, a little too well, and I'm not sure if removing this is going to just kind of blow out all the territories in here. So I'm going to have to kind of work pretty quickly and then put it back in there. These guys, these bettas are more like Grommies, really not super aggressive with each other. They'll kind of dart at each other and stuff, but I don't see a lot of really big aggression. And there's so many of them in here, it's dispersed pretty well. But they do get large, and they just keep getting bigger and bigger. They're a lot bigger even than the last update I did. I think, yeah, they easily get to like 4 or 5 inches long, the males especially. But that's enough of all that. All I'm doing is I'm just putting it off the inevitable, which is pulling this out onto my carpet. Maybe I should get a towel too. All right, let's take a look at this thing. All right, removing the lids off the top. All right, let's see if I can do this even. I'm going to go really slow. Okay, I completely snapped off my chain. I should have expected that. I'm going to go in and grab it. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab as much of this stuff as I can first. Just get it off. Get it out. I think that was what was holding this thing in, maybe? Or maybe the roots were holding it down? So much of this stuff. It'd be really effective compost probably. Well, bare minimum, I have a repair to do. This project's going really great so far. Gotten a lot of this off the side. Let's pull the big boy out though. Okay, so both sides are kind of disconnected. So let's put this down here. I think I can still pull this out. Oh, it's attached to a rock. It's gone all the way around a big rock here. At least one of them. So I need to get my hand in there and make sure that doesn't end tragically. I'm going slow, so any fish inside of this can jump out. That's your cue, fish inside of this. I'm going to pull it up sideways. It's like I've grabbed a Placo cave. All right. Ooh. Feels like... There we go. There's a really, really big, really, really huge piece of Anubias. Oh, man. And here's my tank without all that stuff in it. Let's do a quick little cleanup here. This rock that fell, hopefully on no one. Is that the one that fell back? I can't remember. It probably was. Stick you back where you go. I think you're upside down at this point. A Placo cave floating around. We can put it back here. Now it should be easy to grab all these things. Definitely more light now than there was before. Trouble is, I've got a giant Anubias ball I got to deal with. I did hear some breaky sounds as I was pulling this out, so that means that the wood and stuff that I set up for this is probably not doing so hot. I see one of my lure pieces is still attached. I could probably still tie this side off. But I'm going to have to take a look in here and trim off some of this stuff and get it back down to a reasonable size. So I guess I'll just start trimming. After that, I'm going to have to separate all these things. I'm going to try and get as big a chunks as I can here too. A nice big portion. Got a couple of blooms on there and everything. Nice. I seem to always have way too much of this stuff. I'm actually seeing some signs, some bad signs here. Looks like some rot kind of setting in there. Whenever I see that, I just cut it out. I'm just going to go down the sides of this thing first at least. Alright, now I'm going to kind of take it over to this side and start working my way down. Hoping there's I didn't see any fishes flopping around in here, so I guess we're okay there. A lot of really big pieces of this plant in here. Of course, I'm going to trim out any dead or yellow pieces that I come across too. Start putting some stuff on that side. Some of the stuff is just under layers. Layers and layers that never had a chance, you know. They never even had a chance. Some of these are in better shape than others because they've grown in such a weird way. Look at the roots and stuff. I think I'm actually going to reset a lot of these roots just by clipping them off and letting them grow back. Especially since we pulled it out. Just going to do a little trim across the bottom here. And then I've got to figure out how to reattach this thing. One thing I've noticed is that this wood that I chose to use, this cholla wood, really does rot pretty fast. And it is literally kind of crumbling in my hands if I hold it with too much pressure. So I'm trying to try not to break it as best I can. Oh yeah. I'm gonna have to deal with the ends here. So it started to get a little longer than it's supposed to be. Oh, there's the end of the thing. If I cut off that cord. Now I probably should go down the middle too. And just pull out at least these ones I've got to the top of the light. And I've started to deform a little bit. Let's get the whole thing, in general, a big haircut. Many of these things have been kind of suppressed and hidden under other ones. They're just kind of deformed looking anyway. Also got a little bit of Java fern mixed in the bunch. So we've got it down to a pretty nice size. I think there's some more trimming I can do across the top though, so we'll take care of that. Another way you can do this, and you actually keep from clipping leaves a lot this way, is you find a rhizome and you kind of work your fingers down to the point where you'd like to remove it, and you can pull it out. Okay, the other thing I'm trying to do is remove any of that stem plant I can. That's part of why I trim the roots down a little bit too, is all enveloped in there. Now I have to try and figure out how to save and preserve the stuff that I pulled out. I've got some good stuff here. It's even growing like up underneath it. Okay. All right, now I need to go get some fishing line and try to fix this thing. All right, I found some fishing line, but before I deal with that, I think I need to put my attention back up here, do a little search and destroy. Got a little garbage can. Not a garbage can, well, it's a bucket. It's my bucket can. I should have pulled that out though. Didn't mean to pull you out. We'll plant you back. Don't worry about it. See what I mean though? This stuff just goes everywhere. And at some point, it just makes more sense to use a net to grab it. So let me get one. And these, I'm just going to grab like a medium-sized net and just kind of go around. If you start a current, They'll just drift right into your net. I'm trying not to scare all the fish half to death. They don't especially like this technique, but it is very effective. Really beats kind of getting in there and trying to just grab them with your hands as they float away from you and do all kinds of crazy stuff. If you keep it constantly moving, you can do this without pulling it out. Just kind of go around. Watch out, buddies. As you can see, the stuff will blow around. Every little piece of this you leave will become more of this plant. It just grows and grows. Okay, let's empty that out. I'm sure all of this is just making the betas think that I'm nuts. Wondering what's going on. Or maybe they get it. Maybe they hit this plant too. It's cutting into all their movement. So here's the other thing it does. It'll creep into every little corner like that and just kind of try to hide from you. So we're going to swish it out of these little hiding spots. Come on out. It's not even that it's planted in any of these either. It's just kind of drift, like a little piece of it will just drift in there and stay. I'm sure that's part of its overall strategy for survival. And probably why it got so thick you couldn't see anything in this tank. Hopefully I can free this side of all these little pieces and then just scoop them up with the net. I half expected to see some little tiny baby fish. I haven't seen any so far. I was wondering if there were some living inside of that big Anubias net. When I started this tank it had CO2. That ran out a while ago and I just have not replenished it. I haven't really felt the need to, but that might help with some of these red plants. Alright, I'm going to do a little repair. So we got this guy got pulled out of his planted area a little bit, so I'll push it back in here and I see a root. Oh, we don't want you in there. Any leftover roots or anything that broke off when I pulled this out, we're going to kind of clean that up a little bit. Look for any more of these little pieces of dead leaves or the other plant in here. Boop. Alright, I'm going to go over to the other side and work it. Even though it's unlikely that I'll get all of this, if I get most of it, there'll be that much of it less to deal with. After a bit of effort, I've retied this thing, and I did not do it very evenly. I wonder if I can spin this and compensate that. Maybe that will work. Let's see here. Test it here. Can I hold it up? Now, that might be interesting. Let's go. Let's put it in and give it a try. Keep as many undesirables out as I can. So I'll lower this back in. This sits a lot lower than the last one did. So I'm going to need to adjust my twine a bit. So let me play with that and I'll be right back. All right, already a much brighter experience. But now I've got the additional duty of going through all of that. So I've got this whole thing of Anubias and then some things I don't want on top of it. So I've got to sort that out and get myself a big bucket full of Anubias, I guess. Wow, it really looks a lot better. I'm glad I took the time to trim this stuff. Of course, it snowed overnight, and everything's covered in snow right now. It's probably our biggest snow of the year. Well, definitely our biggest snow of the year so far. Even though there was an ice storm that went all the way through the southeast, it basically missed the part of Tennessee that I'm in. So we just got a lot of rain, but this time we got a lot of snow, and so I've got this big bucket of Anubias I was hoping to take to one of my local fish stores and trade in for some fish credit or something. So I'm going to have to try to figure out how to keep them alive. I'll be shoving it into every little nook and cranny I can, probably in that sump underneath the 210. This looks a lot better. It's so much brighter, this thing was starting to look a little unwieldy. When Anubias gets too squished up, all the leaves kind of turn into weird shapes. The stuff, it'll get kind of sunburnt at the top. It'll come up and kind of rest on a light and get kind of sunburnt over there. The view from the side of this, which gets a fair amount of view because this kind of sits at the end of a room, so I want to make sure the view on this side looked really nice, and it does. It looks a lot better, and it's a lot brighter. All those little vines, most of those vines are gone. I think my filter has sucked up the last little bit that were floating around, so I'm going to have to go in there and clean them out. You can see all the fish and stuff a lot better too. Unfortunately, they can see each other a lot better, and I'm hoping these bettas don't end up too cranky with some of their territory being a little more sparse. Like literally, I think I cut maybe 2/3 of this away. Like there's a huge amount that's gone here and here. The Crypt Parv didn't seem like it was suffering under here too much, but it did seem like it was getting a little thin, especially in the dark part here in the middle. So I'm hoping that kind of picks up and grows a little bit more. This will grow out again. I'll have to eventually do this again. Tying it back up wasn't that hard, luckily. I just kind of got some fishing line and I've tied it back up. This thing is kind of coming apart, so this might be a limited time feature for this. I don't know how many more times this is going to take. The cholla wood that this is made of there's kind of thin. It was like a kind of a thin but sprawling piece that had a lot of branches on it. But this stuff, these vines and stuff are just growing into and through all that stuff and probably breaking it apart slowly, as well as just rotting from being underwater. So might be a limited amount of time left on the old cholla wood, but I guess we'll see. The tank overall, just like there's a lot of comments where people didn't like the shape of this tank, but I'm not sure why. It kind of reminds me of the old school TV shape, like the old big screen TVs, and these sort of semi-rectangular square shape. I really like it. It looks really nice. I've got my workstation for work. Working from home on the other side, and I can just kind of turn around and chill out and watch my big bettas floating around here. The canister filter that it uses seems to work super well. I do have a sponge on the intake because there's a lot of little babies that float around in here, and I wanted to kind of limit the suction of them. I left the top of it open, and it kind of grabs debris, and I have to remember to clean it out. And every now and then I got to pull that sponge off because the flow gets a little slow, and squeeze it out. But that's most of the maintenance. That sponge catches a lot of the big stuff that would get clog up the canister filter down below, so it kind of does double duty, protecting the babies and also keeping this thing pristine. I've been doing a lot of aquarium maintenance lately. There's a couple of aquariums I want to break down. One I want to break down and redo, and one I just want to break down and put it in my garage. But it's kind of tricky because with all the really cold weather, I haven't wanted to drag anything outside and hose it down. I definitely don't want my water hose full of water right now, even if it were possible to do, which it is not. And of course, I've got the Fluval Flex. I need to go back and get my review in for that. I did like it a lot, but there is a couple of little things that I have to say about it. So if you'd like to see that, be sure to subscribe, click like, and hopefully I'll get to see you again. Until next time, follow your bliss, keep a clean tank, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.